Yo, what's up? Welcome to Kinda Funny Games Daily for Wednesday, May 18th, 2022. I'm one of your hosts, Blessing Adeoye Jr. Joining me is Gameonicist, aka Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's good?
Not much, Janet. How's it going with you?
It's going good. I woke up. I didn't do much before coming here, and that's why I was here a few minutes early, because I'm like, there's not enough time to really do anything, so I'm just gonna sit here and be ready
I was
to play
surprised
games.
when I joined the Discord. I think I looked at about 9:55, and I know Janet Garcia. Janet Garcia doesn't show up until when she's needed, and so I was like, oh, Janet will be there by 9:59. And like when I saw that you were in the call, I was like, oh shit, I'm the late one. Like
I also
I'm the
appreciate
trouble here.
that we all do the Discord lurk, and that's what I like about Discord and just like as a platform in general. It's easy to know, okay, where are people? You can jump into calls easily. Versus, I think it was like Greg that I was talking to about like my Zoom panics of like, to me it's so stressful when you're waiting to be let in because you have to like be physically on, like, let me not like look weird or be doing anything, like, because at any second I'm just gonna be thrown in here.
So you keep
But
the
Discord, you
camera
can lurk, you can just you can jump in. I
I've
never know
learned.
if the camera's off or on, and it's just like a whole
I'm just
thing.
paranoid about it. That's what I've learned over the
Yeah.
last couple of years is like, yeah, as long as the camera's off, you're good, right? Like I keep my camera off, I keep my mic muted. That way I can like sing along to whatever song I'm listening to on Spotify and have a good time. And then like once somebody comes in, I can act normal. No, I was just sitting here staring at a wall. I wasn't doing it. I wasn't doing anything. I was just sitting here, right? And that's what you convey. I'm not Snowbike Mike, where if you join a call and Snowbike Mike's in the call, there's a very good chance that he has his camera on, he has his mic on, and he's doing like a dance to some random song that I've never heard of before.
Or sometimes dancing to nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sometimes dancing to nothing.
I remember, we have that, the clip that went around on social where it's him wearing the Master Chief helmet,
Yeah.
with the Halo Infinite theme playing under it. And that clip was made because it was Halo Infinite multiplayer launch day. I went into the Discord room, Games Daily's going on, there's nobody else in this room, and he's dancing to nothing wearing this helmet. And I was like, well, I have to record this. I can't just let this man like do this and not be like, called out on it. So, and that's great.
Mike is
That's
an
why we love
enigma.
Mike.
That's why we love him, but that's also why I have so many questions about him because it's like, why are you just sitting in your room dancing with a Halo helmet on? Like, do we need to have a talk, Michael? Snow White, Michael, and Angel.
If I had a helmet like that, I might put that on unceremoniously. Like we
Mm.
have the I don't know if we still have it actually, but at a time Isaiah had the collector's edition for Fallout 76 that had like that helmet. I definitely put that on. Like you have to.
A lot of people in chat are calling out the ice cream situation where I was on a call
Yes.
and I was going in on some ice cream.
But you
And
went
let me-
into the call yourself, so
to make it clear, yeah, like
it
to be
out.
clear, I knew I was being seen by Greg and Kevin. I didn't realize we were live, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize that I was gonna be full screened live on the Twitch channel. I think that's the difference. Like I didn't mind them seeing me go in on this ice cream because I was like, dude, I wanted them to adjust my camera and figure this shit out, right? I was doing I was doing Kevin a courtesy. Let me join the call early. Turn on my camera so you can adjust it while I finish up this ice cream that I am thoroughly enjoying. And I didn't consider that the entire audience would see me thoroughly enjoying that ice cream, but I digress. Janet, there's a lot of things in this episode for us to thoroughly enjoy. Things like a Saints Row preview roundup, Final Fantasy VII news inbound, and more, because this is Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every weekday at 10 a.m. live right here on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. If you're watching live, you can correct us when we get stuff wrong by going to kindafunny.com/you're wrong. If you don't want to watch live, you can watch later on youtube.com/kindafunnygames, roosterteeth.com, or you can listen later on podcast services around the globe by searching for Kinda Funny Games Daily. Remember, you can use Epic Creator Code Kinda Funny on all Epic Store and Epic in-game purchases like Rocket League and Fortnite to help support the channel. To be a part of the show, to patreon.com/kindafunnygames, where bronze members or above get to write in, and silver members or above get the show ad-free with the exclusive daily post show. Housekeeping for you, a new episode of the Kinda Funny Gamescast is up, featuring the one and only Jeff Grubb. That's right, Jeffy Grubb is on that. We discussed the Steam Deck emulation and whether or not 2023 will be the greatest year in video game history. That might sound like a heck of an overstatement, but let me tell you, arguments are made. Very convincing arguments are made on that episode, so you should go check that one out on youtube.com/kindafunnygames and on podcast services around the globe. And then in case you missed it, we reviewed the new Kendrick Lamar album, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. That is up on the Screencast feed and over on youtube.com/kindafunny. Janet, did you check out that album?
I did.
How'd you feel about it?
I think I could see it growing on me because that's often the case with albums that don't initially hit for me. I think there's some interesting things being said, but I don't really like a lot of the songs. Like, it feels a lot more like a entire piece than something I can like pick up and listen to, which like not everything needs to be as listenable, but I feel like previous albums had both. And I feel like this one doesn't as much. And then there's some other choices made that I'm like, know about what you said it there, or how you said it. So
Maybe
yeah,
we should
I
dig
don't
into
know.
this during the post show because I'd love to have this conversation with you.
Oh my
but we'll
gosh.
save that for there. Yeah, because I love the album.
There's some stuff.
There's like some nitpicks I haven't heard there, but for the most part, it's like for me another like what do they call like an infinity gem in like the gauntlet of like, man, you just keep dropping these classics for me.
The
Like
Stones.
the Stones, right? Like I've not
Totally
had an
different
album.
than Gems. Like I don't even know why I mentioned that. Like I
Yeah,
absolutely knew
like-
what you meant.
I've not had an album that's hit for
actually?
me.
No.
Actually, they're Stones, not Gems, even though they look
Yeah,
exactly like Gems.
that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, what are you thinking? But I've not had an album hit for me in this way for a long time in terms of like me going back and listening to it over and over and over again. Like I've had albums that have hit. Like I've been listening a lot to Vince Staples' album that he dropped earlier in the year, and that for me was my album of the year before I got to this album because
The Pusha T album didn't do anything for you?
it's good. It's good. It's just not as good as his last like 4 albums is the thing. Like ever since My Name Is My Name, Pusha T has been on a roll, right? Like My Name Is My Name is fucking incredible, right? His follow up to that one, I forget what that one's even called, but like it was like
This
kind of a
does
lower
sound like
key
the
release.
post show now. I think probably.
It does sound like a
little
post show
bit.
conversation, but like
Let's not give the
Daytona.
post show away for free, you know?
I'll finish up with Pusha T and say that Daytona was off the chain, right? Like Daytona, if you know,
That
you
was really
know.
good.
Oh my god, that production. This last album was cool. Like it's him talking more about selling cocaine, and there's only so much There's only so long I can listen to somebody talk about selling cocaine before I'm like, I don't know, man. Can you talk about doing taxes? Can you talk about like something else? Like Jay-Z did it. Jay-Z put out 444 where he taught me how to invest. Like Pusha T, teach me how to like.
Was that your takeaway from
manage my
444? Because that's not the takeaway that I had from 444.
He taught me. Jay-Z taught me how to invest, and he apologized for cheating on Beyonce. Those were the 2 takeaways I had from 444.
Anyway,
What was your takeaway from 444?
we don't have time for this. Let's just get into it later.
We got
We'll
plenty
get
of
into
time.
it
We're only
later.
10 minutes into the show. We got
Oh my
50 minutes
God.
left. We can talk
Are
about
you bullying me into talking about not video games in this video game show? Is that what's happening right now?
100%. Well, here's the thing, right? One of our big stories is Final Fantasy 7, and I know that like you and Barry don't care about Final Fantasy 7 that much.
It's not that I don't care about it. It's just that like I don't share your
love
opinion.
the original game, bless. And that's
Anyway, thank you
all
to our
I
Patreon
love.
producers. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Anonymous and Fargo Brady. Today we're brought to you by Maple Story and Lumen Skin, but we'll tell you about that later. For now, let's begin with what is, and forever will be, the Roper Report. It's time for some news. We have 6 stories today. A baker's dozen. Starting with our number 1, we got a Saints Row preview roundup. A lot of people have gotten to check out a behind closed doors preview of Saints Row. I got to see that behind closed door preview of Saints Row. It was about 50 minutes of footage plus a Q&A and all this stuff. I'm gonna pull in a couple of different previews to give a broad spectrum. Right, it seems like a lot of the impressions are mixed to positive. Right, like it seems like a lot of people have a lot of good stuff to say, but there are some articles out there that are like, there's some good things, but also it seems like there might not be as much polish. And I've got two articles, one from IGN, which is the positive one, and then I have another one following up on that, which is more of a middling one. So to start off with Simon Carty at IGN, Simon put up an article titled "Saints Row is shaping up to be a fun throwback." His article reads like this. Having watched roughly 50 minutes of Saints Row gameplay, I'm encouraged by what I've seen. Deep Silver Volition's reboot of the series looks a lot of fun, filled with the wackiness, carnage, and humor you'd expect. It feels comfortably familiar, but with enough new ways to play to make it not seem like a retread of what's to come before, and promises to be a welcome throwback to an era when playful, urban open-world games were a much more common occurrence. The first thing that caught my attention was the huge emphasis placed on customization. Everything from your playable boss, a huge range of vehicles, arsenal of weaponry, and your base can be tailored to your own designs. Car customization in particular looks substantial, with everything from paint jobs to neon underglows available. The character creator is also extensive, giving players the option to create just about anything human-shaped their mind can imagine. You can also completely overhaul the look of your character at any time. Simply open the in-game phone app to perform the most advanced cosmetic surgery known to man. In a weird way, it reminded me of The Sims as you build a library of characters, each with their own backstory you made up in your head to take control of. One thing Saints Row has always benefited from is its vast range of unique weapons, and that's no different here. I've seen guns that shoot bullets through walls as if they're paper, finger guns that fire bullets from giant foam fingers, and my favorite, the Thrust Buster, a throwable football that sticks onto enemies and vehicles, sending them flying into the air before exploding into tiny pieces. Every weapon, even the more conventional ones, have their own unlockable signature abilities too, such as turning a simple pistol into a quick-fire machine pistol with a click of a button. Of course, there's more to that IGN article, that IGN preview by Simon Cardy. I encourage you guys to go over there and check out the full thing. But from here, I want to jump into Victoria Kennedy's preview at Eurogamer, who titles their article, Saints Row looks colorful and amusingly chaotic, but lacks some polish. Her article reads like this. Last week, I got to have a closer look at the Saints Row reboot from Volition. As you would expect, it looked bombastic and eclectic, with a myriad of unusual ideas that can only really be married together in a Saints Row game. However, at this point, it also felt like Volition has focused a bit too much on adding in all this stuff to the game, and seemingly at the cost of some polish and finesse. Saints Row was confirmed to be a cross-gen release on its initial announcement last year, and that seems to be a fair market for it. Right now, it just looks and feels like more of a last-gen game than a current-gen one. Throughout the showcase, Saints Row's fighting appeared to be a touch clunky, while its cutscenes and dialogue felt more forced than we may expect from a game today. Meanwhile, during a close-up of the boss's face, you could clearly see that the character's eyelashes and eyelids did not match up in the way you would expect them to. This could be a bug that will be fixed by launch, but it was nonetheless jarring on the eye. With all that said, Saints Row still looks as if it holds the potential for fun. Be that because of the amusing way you can bop off pedestrians' heads to gain a boost when using your flight suit, or because you can change up your character's appearance on the fly as and when the mood takes you. Janet Garcia, where are you at with Saints Row? Is this a game that you've been looking forward to after seeing and reading these previews? Does this do anything for your anticipation for it?
I guess it makes me a little more confident that it'll at least be a solid game, just because, like you said, it being sort of mixed to positive means that, okay, this probably won't like completely flop in any way. You know, obviously there's always the chance of like, especially when they're hands-off previews, it's such a challenge because you don't actually get to go in and do the tinkering and get a feel for the game because you're just watching someone get a feel for the game. So that's always the challenge of writing these and trying to like sort of anticipate where it's going to land. But unless it comes out like, you know, broken for some reason, this should be a decent experience. I think this is about what I kind of expected to hear from the previews, just because I saw this and heard about this game initially and am still not expecting this to like blow anybody out of the water. Like, I feel like it'll just be a good solid time, you know, somewhere around that kind of range, which is why, like, you know, this is an interesting one because I believe you have this game in the draft in Fantasy Critic, right?
Yeah, I do. And like after
I remember feeling like, oh, like I was feeling like that maybe that's like a little bit of a risky pick. Like, I think you'll get points on the board overall because so many outlets are going to review it, and I imagine that it's going to mostly be, you know, in that 7+ range, which to get points in Fantasy Critic, you need to be above a 7 or above a 70.
Above 70.
But I don't know that you're going to really like get a lot from it. And it does have, in my opinion, the risk to dip below. So how are you feeling as, you know, both a player and a fantasy critic and also a real critic?
So okay,
yeah,
I love this question because I think you're giving me a different angles to come at this from, because as a player coming out of this is now the second hands-off preview that I've attended for Saints Row. Coming off of it, I'm ecstatic. I'm so excited for this game. I think this game looks fun as hell. It reminds me a little bit of the way we talked about Kena Bridge of Spirits, where Kena came out, and I remember our review on PS Love You, like the headline or thumbnail was like the best PS2 game, right? Like, it's a game that feels like it harkens back so much to games that we loved on PS2, but it does that with so much quality and so much like, oh man, no, but this is beautiful. Like, this is fun to play. Like, it captures that energy so well and is almost nostalgic for that reason. Saints Row, this new revamped Saints Row, reminds me so much of PS2 games that I loved that I feel like we haven't gotten as much of nowadays. Like, when you think about the open world city crime games, right? Like, GTA 5 is still around, but GTA 5 came out in like 2013 and people still play online, right? But like, you don't get that many new iterations, right? Like, you got Crackdown 3, but like that very, very much came and went, right? Like
Mafia 3 came out 6
Mafia
years
3,
ago at this point.
6 years ago. Like, these aren't games that come out crazy often. And I think for me as a player, as somebody who I really dug Saints Row 3, I really dug Saints Row 4, I'm kind of craving a new Saints Row game. I'm kind of craving a new open world city game where I'm going about fucking around, blowing shit up. And I think for what they're focusing on in this game, it seems like there's a very big emphasis on the things that you want there to be a very big emphasis on, right? Like I echo some of the critiques in that second preview we read from Victoria Kennedy at Eurogamer talking about polish, right? Like watching this preview, even though I would say that this game looks like the best, it's the best looking Saints Row game that we've gotten, right? Like I think fidelity wise, it is a step up, and I believe they're running on a new engine. It also like doesn't strike me as next gen, right, or new gen, right? This doesn't strike me as a thing of like, oh, this is gonna blow me away from polishing graphics and all that stuff. But the thing is, I don't think Saints Row has ever been that. I remember playing Saints Row 3 when Saints Row 3 came out and being like, yeah, man, the shooting's kind of janky, but I'm not necessarily here for a perfect shooting game, right? I'm here to cause chaos. I'm here for the debauchery. I'm here to customize shit. And for all of what they showed during the preview, that shit is intact, right? Like the customization in this game looks insane. It's a very big focus on like customizing how your main character looks, right? Which is the boss, right? Customizing how the boss looks. It looks like it's as, if not more batshit than the previous Saints Row games we've gotten, because like if you remember in previous Saints Rows, right? Like you could go pretty crazy with the customization. Like you could like adjust different body parts. You can make your dick as big as you want, right? Or like boobs or whatever that stuff, right? Like you can kind of get deep in there and do that crazy stuff, right? You can wear masks, have like different, do different color grading for your different clothes and all this shit. You can get really detailed with how you customize your character. And it seems like they're doubling down a lot on that stuff in this game, which I love. The vehicle customization looks really fun as well. And I'm somebody who during the PS2 era, like again, these kind of games are my shit, right? Specifically, I talk about it all the time, GTA San Andreas. And one of the things I love to do in GTA San Andreas, and even in GTA 5 to this day, was take my car to the auto shop and customize how my car looked, right? Like add in new rims, go through all the different colors, the textures of the different cars, materials, all that stuff. That stuff seems like it's being it has like a very big focus in this game in terms of them providing so many options to make your vehicles look as dope as you want them to, and that for me has me excited, right? Like I think the customizations, and you can do they showed off gun customization and stuff as well, right? Like they're very much leaning into the stuff that makes that part of the game fun. And then also on the other hand, I think they're leaning into the sandbox nature of it. Like the thing that interests me the most right now, and this is definitely a critique, but also like it's looping around to why I'm excited about at the same time. I don't really care about the story at this point. Like nothing they've shown about this game narratively, story wise, has really struck me or gotten me interested. Like it is, you are building the Saints, right? Like there are different gangs in the city, and like the different gangs seem like they're cool. It seems like there's 3 main gangs that you're messing with, and they all have their own gimmicks and stuff, and they seem fine. But like you are the boss, you are like this new Gen Z version of the Saints who are like young, who are like in this big expensive city and are trying to make it. And so you're building the Saints from scratch, right? And it's a rebooted Saints. It's not the Saints that you know from the other games. And like in that sense, it seems basic, right? It seems, by the numbers. It doesn't seem like anything new. We've seen this before. But in the way that like the open world stuff, like the traversal, the different vehicles, the like different activities that they throw your way, right? Like they have fan favorite stuff, right? They have insurance fraud, which is like where you go and you try to cause as much destruction as possible to like gain as much money as possible, right? Like all that fan favorite stuff makes a return, but then also there's just like a lot of wacky stuff, right? Like they have like wingsuits that you can fly with, right? They have a car unlockable thing where you can have an ejector seat in your car. So like if you drive your car, if you launch off a ramp, eject off the seat and then equip your wingsuit, now you're flying across the city. And it's like, and Barrett's killing it with the B-roll because Barrett actually showed the exact thing that I'm talking about. Like this is the type of shit that I'm talking about, where I'm like, this gets me excited. I can't wait to fuck around in this game,
like,
and have a good time.
I'm not a Saints Row person. I don't even know if I've ever actually touched a Saints Row game. And like with this reboot, like I remember when they revealed it and I was like, yeah, all right, cool. But like the footage that's coming out from this round of previews, I'm like, yeah, I could see myself like fucking around with this, because this seems like the goofy kind of stuff that I'm in the mood for.
It seems like it's going to be less of a, in the way that we talk about like the game of the year contenders, like the best games of the year type stuff. I don't know if it's going to be in that conversation, and I don't think it needs to. And that comes back to your original question of like, how do you feel about your fantasy draft? I feel fine about it. Like I don't know if it's going to be a banger for my fantasy draft. I don't know if this game's going to get like, above 80s or whatever the fuck.
Right.
I just need this game to be good. Like if this game gets 8s,
I just need
that's
it to be
a fucking
fun
success,
time, man.
I just need it to be a fun time. Yeah, like I just need it to be
not as Fantasy Critic though, right? Fantasy Critic isn't about fun. It's about the evil of the numbers.
For sure.
You know?
And like the Fantasy Critic thing, like it's not. I'm not like over the moon on it.
I win either way because I direct both XCast and PS I Love You. I win.
Yeah, that
By
Bear
default.
wins either way. But for me as a player,
But who do you secretly want to win? Because you know there's somebody. Don't say it. Just
oh,
think it
Bear
in
is
your
going
head
for
and
the
your heart.
XCast team. Bear is going for the XCast team for sure. He was helping
Wow.
Snow
All
Mike
right.
and them during the actual
Yeah,
episode.
but I gave
was there.
Snowbike Mike bad advice. You know, I told him to pick up Trek to Yomi, and look how that worked out. You know.
That's true. Oh,
I think
that is a
I
good
got
point.
him some points, not a lot. So it's like, maybe diminishing returns on the investment, but
Yeah.
yeah, this
But
does look like a fun time. Like someone in chat had mentioned this, and I don't know the name anymore, so feel free to fake claim credit if it's you, or actually claim credit if it actually is you. But someone mentioned like it feels like Sunset Overdrive meets Watch Dogs, and that's kind of the vibe I got too. Like, not obviously Sunset Overdrive is actually a very polished game. Like it controls incredibly well. I think it's very much like you can feel that precursorness to the movement in games like Spider-Man, but it was about like there was silly wild stuff going on in that world, and it felt very like stylized and like it knew exactly what it wanted to do. And yeah, I can see this being a really fun time. And I'm also someone that like on the Watch Dogs comparison, like Watch Dogs didn't like the last one didn't like blow me away or anything, but it was like my first one, and I enjoyed my time with it of just like the loop of what they sort of offered there. So yeah, I think if this is, do we have any idea on the length of this game?
Oh, I don't know actually. I don't know.
'Cause I'm a little bit nervous
but I
about
assume
that.
it's gonna
Like,
be. I assume it's gonna be like the same length as the other Saints Row games. Like I can't imagine it's like more than in terms of like mainlining story and shit. Like
Yeah.
20 hours maybe. But like I think this is the kind of sandbox that you want people to come back to. Like this seems like a game to exist in. And one of the things I want to shout out as well is like in the Q&A somebody asked the question of co-op. Like how does co-op work? And it's drop in, drop out. Like if you do a mission with like a co-op partner, if you get to that mission in your game, it'll then bring up the option of like, do you want to skip? Right? Like like this game is a game
so
that
you can progress then in other people's games.
You can progress in other people's games.
Oh
yes.
my god, that's like the
and that's
number one
exactly
thing.
what I want to hear.
That's why like that was like one of my biggest beefs with like the last Far Cry, where that really just de-incentivized the idea of going into anyone's game for me, because it's like, okay, like you can definitely do this on your own. Like it's not you need me there, but like it would be fun to be together if it actually mattered in my game. But if I'm just gonna have to run it back, yeah, I like that element of it. That's cool.
And like we talk about what this game looks like in terms of the combination of other games. For me, so far the vibes I get are Watch Dogs 2 meets Just Cause. Just in terms of like the energy of like the Watch Dogs 2 open world and like what that story is going for, and tonally. They mentioned that this game sits between Saints Row 2 and Saints Row 3 in terms of tone. Saints Row 3 got real wacky, right? And Saints Row 2 was a little bit more grounded. This seems like it's trying to play the in-between, right? It's not trying to go super crazy and memey and all that shit, right, over the top. But it is still trying to keep some of that energy, some of the humor, some of the over the top stuff. Like I don't think there's a dildo bat in this game. I get the vibes that there's not going to be a dildo bat or a dubstep gun, but they do have what they call the Pineapple Express, which is a move where you like take somebody, you like shove a grenade into like their pants or whatever, and then you throw them at your enemies, right? And it's like, oh, that's fun. Like so much of this game, and so much of my excitement now for this game is driven by it just seems like such a fun sandbox. Like forget the mainline story, forget like I don't know, man, like the open world discovery shit. Like forget like the things we think about when we think about games critically. For me, this game just looks fun. It looks like a fun game to just exist in and cause chaos and like join Snow. If we play this game on stream, right? Join Snow Mike's game. All right, cool. Let's run a random activity, see how much chaos we can cause. Oh man, I got the fucking rocket launcher with the special signature move. Cool, let me do that. Oh, you got the like. It seems like that kind of game, and I'm totally down for it to be that kind of game. And I like the more I see this game, the more excited I get about it. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. We were talking about it a little bit yesterday, right? And I think the general sentiment about Saints Row seems to be that like more people are on the side of being trepidatious about it. But like, I don't know, man. The more I see, the more I'm like, fuck, this looks good. Like it looks like a good game, and so that's where I come down.
I'm there either way, so hopefully it shakes out and can hold my attention the whole way through, because. Yeah, we'll just see how it goes, but it seems like a solid time.
Janet, let's move on with story number 2. Final Fantasy VII news is incoming this next month. This is from Andy Robinson at Video Games Chronicle. Square Enix will make announcements regarding the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII next month. That's according to director Tetsuya Nomura, who shared the news during a Japanese livestream focused on the mobile battle royale Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier on Wednesday. It's possible June's announcements could include the reveal of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, since Square Enix has previously indicated that it would like to share details on the sequel during this anniversary year. 2022 is not only a milestone year for Final Fantasy VII, but also for the series itself. And publisher Square Enix recently said it intends to release several new games this year, but that its plans are centered around its most high-profile franchise. Final Fantasy XVI producer Naoki Yoshida has also said that a new trailer for the game will be released soon. Few details have been revealed on Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 so far, other than confirmation last year that Naoki Hamaguchi, the co-director of Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1, will take over full directing duties for the follow-up as Tetsuya Nomura takes on a broader creative director position. Nomura has also said that compared to last year's Intergrade re-release, that Part 2 will make more use of PlayStation 5's unique hardware features. Janet Garcia. It seems like the height of hopes is a Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 announcement. Do you think there's any chance we see that in June?
Yeah, I think there's a chance. I mean, it's been a while, and I don't think I think us seeing it doesn't mean that it's like coming out like this year or maybe even the year after that. But I think it would just be good to see something, even if it's not like a date or a window, just any level of anything would be good. If you have anything, we need you a lot, because I think it's just been, not that people are like, I think we knew that we were in for a very long haul, like, and that just kind of is what it is. It's not my ideal situation with a game like this, but the fact that they were even breaking it up into pieces anyway, I was kind of like, all right, I guess this is our lives for the next like 10 years now. And I sort of accepted that once they had announced that was how they were doing it. And then especially as they continue to talk about being like, well, you know what, we don't even know how many parts it's going to be. Like, we're just kind of here, you know, we're like, and Final Fantasy 1 remake, if that's what we're 7 remake 1 part 1, whatever, gameplay wise, you know, and visually, fantastic game. I have my big gripes with that game is come from the story, but you know, I think they're pretty set up to, like, if they continue with what they're doing generally, like, knock it out of the park again. And even like my feelings aside, it's like a highly critically acclaimed game. So seeing anything would just be good to like remind us, hey, it really is moving along. We got it. We're going. But yeah, what about you? Do you think we're going to see this, or is it like absolutely no hope?
I won't say absolutely no hope, but I'm not counting on it. I think there's so much that Final Fantasy has in terms of like things they could show, right? Like there's Final Fantasy 16, there's Final Fantasy 7, again, remake part 2, right? There's Final Fantasy 7 mobile games, plural, yeah. Like between like the classic remake stuff and then also like the battle royale, like the list goes on in terms of Final Fantasy 7 focused like mobile stuff, right? There's Final Fantasy 14 shit, and then like there's this Final Fantasy history in general, right? Like there's so much you can touch on in terms of Final Fantasy stuff you can do for this anniversary. And like Tetsuya Nomura, right? Or was it Nomura? Yeah, Nomura is talking about like, yeah, like we're gonna have Final Fantasy 7 stuff to show. But I think that can mean so many different things. And I don't want to hope for a remake part 2, because I would think that even though they said that like, yo, yeah, we want to talk about it sometime this year, you still have Final Fantasy 16, which I would think that you would put all your focus on. Like, don't start that marketing cycle for 7 remake part 2 yet, right? Like everybody knows it exists in some form, right? Or it's going to exist in some form. We know that that's going to come sometime, right? But like, I don't think you need to start that cycle for us anticipating
knowing
it.
Them though, where you know when 7 remake first got revealed, wasn't that like 2015? You know, like I could see it.
And they just announced Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah, I could see.
Or Kingdom Hearts 4, sorry.
Yeah, out of nowhere, right? Or not out of nowhere, but it felt like a holy crap, we're waking up on a Monday.
Yeah.
And so I could see them very much focusing on Final Fantasy 16 and being like, hey, like we're going all in on this now. Hopefully it's out within the year and stuff like that. And like the very end, let's say they're doing an event. At the very end, you get the similar level of teaser that we got in 2015 for part 1 for part 2.
Yeah, I think you could wait till 2023 to do that, is my thing. Like, focus in, and I know this is like, we're Square Enix we're talking about, right? Like, again, they just announced Kingdom Hearts 4, which I'm sure we're not going to see for years and years and years. Like, it's not beyond them to do it beyond, but I would think that like right now the smart move for Final Fantasy 16, which feels like it's somewhat imminent, and by imminent I mean like fall going into early next year, right? That's a game that I think you can go, all right, everybody focus in. Let's fucking market the hell out of Final Fantasy 16 and not get distractions in the way. Because I think to some extent, Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 would be a distraction if you announce it in June when you're trying to lead up to this other thing that you want as much anticipation for. That said, right, like, I also think for Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, you would announce it at a Sony thing. And I don't think you're gonna get a Sony event in June. It's hard for me to believe at the very least. Like if we get a Sony announcement or a PlayStation showcase kind of thing, then I'm like, all right, maybe we'll see it. Maybe you see both Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 there.
It'll just be 2015 again.
It'll just be 2015 again. But like I don't see this showing up at like Summer Games Fest Live. I don't see it showing up at like any like a Square Enix press conference because I don't think Square Enix does a press conference either. Like, are they going to drop it just on a random Tuesday in June? They could, but like, why would you do that?
I mean, I think they have some spots to drop it, and they can kind of drop it at any time at this point. Like, I don't personally feel there's a whole lot of basis on the idea of it being too early for Square. I don't think too early really exists. And I think they've established a track record where people are kind of okay with that. Like, even if it's not your ideal marketing cycle, like, that is probably what you should prepare for. Like, it would be more shocking if they were like, you know, here's a full-on trailer, a release date, and the date's really soon. Like, whenever, you know, whether or not that's going to be 2022 to 2023, whether it's going to be like a trailer in like 2024 and it comes out in 2025, like, they don't really seem to do quick in that regard. And I think too, like, I think in a way, Integrate kind of buys some time as well, where it's not like they have totally not done anything with Final Fantasy VII Remake. So yeah, I mean, I think it really can happen in any time. So like, this would be a, like, you know, theme-wise, and a really appropriate time to do it. Doesn't mean they will, but it would totally fit. It makes sense.
I think the other thing too is we talk about Square Enix and how they seem like they're primed to get bought up by somebody, and I think there's no better way to up your price as a company than to announce Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2 and go, hey, look at how much hype there is for this game that is the follow-up to 2020 Game of the Year, right? Like, if I could see that being in the way that they kind of did that with Tomb Raider as well, right? Like, they announced the next Tomb Raider game, and then all of a sudden, Crystal Dynamics got sold off to Embracer. Like, I think that could be a strategy there too. And so like I wouldn't count it out for that reason as well. But I do want to bring in a question from Jake Bakes Cakes, who writes into patreon.com/kindafunnygames, just like you can, and says, Final Fantasy VII news is incoming. 2 questions. Is it finally coming to Xbox, or should consumers give up hope? And then is it a bad idea to show Part 2 this early if it isn't coming for 2+ years, or do you think we get it within 2023? Thanks for all you do. Y'all are the best part of every day. Jake Bakes Cakes. God, I can't say the name. Jake Bakes Cakes. Thank you so much for that. Janet Garcia.
It again?
Jake Bakes Cakes. It messes me up because like
She
one of those
seashells on the seashore. Yeah.
She seashells at the seashore. I also have like weird congestion stuff going on because light cold, but I digress. Janet Garcia, what are your thoughts on this question?
I mean, with the Xbox, it's always like, I mean, that's not totally out of the realm of possibility, but I don't think you should hold on to hope too fiercely with something like that. Almost ever, unless there's like I said, some type of track record where, you know, a lot of times we talk about on this show or on like our other Pillar podcasts about different, like, you know, indie games or something coming to different platforms where that makes a lot more sense, and there's a lot more of a history on those kind of moves that we can point to when we kind of have those speculations. Here, that's a little bit more mixed or a little bit more muddied. And then is it a bad idea to show Part 2? No, I don't think it's a bad idea to show. I think you can show Part 2. You could have showed Part 2 like 2 years ago, and I don't think it would have mattered. Like, I forgot. I need to start writing these things down, our like dumb Hail Mary predictions, because then I forget what we end up saying. Because I did call for when I thought 7 Remake would come out, and I think I placed it like really far away, but I don't know how far it was, and that might not be that far anymore. I might have said like 2025 somewhere or something. I don't know. But again, once they laid out how they were doing things, I'm like, this is going to be hopefully not the entirety of my career, because I hope I have a longer career than that. But then like, this is the rest of my career. This is like, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, I remember when. Exactly. Like, I remember me and you and I talked about this 7 years ago, you know, and we're going to have like completely different lives and be like in a different universe at that point. Yeah. And then we're going to be like, it's time to finally play. And then we're going to have to inevitably replay the first part because it'd been so long. Anyway, but yes, it's going to, I feel like, I'd be a little shocked, honestly, if it came out in 2023. That would be
It's not going to come out in 2020. There's absolutely no way in hell.
Right? Like, they're going to drag.
That it comes out in 2023.
I mean, they broke the game in a and I'm not saying they did that purely to, like, put out a lot of SKUs or something, but, like, the way everything about this project says the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like, there's no speed
Yeah,
here.
at the very least, right? It says
Not that they're not
like,
going as quickly as they can, but it seems like a long
I
process.
mean, game development is hard, and like Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 was ambitious. Like, they turned the first few hours of Final Fantasy VII into a 30-hour experience, right? Like, that is a full ass RPG that has like really great polish and like the character models and like a really great combat system, and it feels like a full game that you're playing right there, right? Like, they did that with the first few hours of Final Fantasy VII, and like I would assume that the plan is for probably around 3 games of that ilk, and I that's gonna take a while for that to come out, and I'm hyped for it, honestly. Like, I'm
and then
totally
a
down
fort,
for this
that's stuff
process.
that's never happened before.
Maybe,
People
yeah.
are like, oh my god, like we thought it was over. Also, shout out to Breezy, Breeziest Chip in the chat who says Janet and Benjamin Miller hosting Games Daily talking about Final Fantasy VII Remake. 100%.
I love the idea that at that point you're like
you're
as old as Greg Miller. Like, you've taken the Greg Miller role, and like Benjamin is like the new kid that just got hired into kind of funny, but it's like Kind of Funny Part 2. It's like we've gone through multiple iterations.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there's no way Final Fantasy VII Remake is
Kind of Funny Junior.
Part 2. Kind of Funny Junior, yeah, that's a better
Yeah.
one. No way that game is coming out in 2023. And then also, I don't know if there's a too early. Like, for me, this year would be too early, but I don't think it matters for Square Enix. I think it just matters for me in terms of like, you don't have to do it. Like, Final Fantasy 16 is what you should focus on, I think, in a marketing way. And then in terms of, is it finally coming to Xbox, or should consumers give up hope? I would say consumers should give up hope. I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is such a strong exclusive for PlayStation, and I think as Sony, you do all you can to hold on to the exclusivity of that one, because it is such a banger and important title for the PlayStation ecosystem. But Janet, you know what else is a banger? Patreon.com/kindoffunnygames, where you can go to get the show ad-free. And speaking of ads, let us tell you about our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by Lumen. If your skincare routine is basically you washing your face in the shower with that one shower gel that you've been using since high school, then it's time to level up the skincare game. Thanks to Lumen, you can drop that bottle of 3-in-1 and start using products that actually take care of your face. With Lumen, you get the highest quality products. All their products aim to help with those stubborn acne scars, under eye dark circles, wrinkles, sun damage, dry skin, oily skin. Gia has been using the charcoal face wash and charcoal face scrub, and she feels so fresh, so clean afterward. She has dry skin, so especially during the winter, it's nice to have that hydration and exfoliation. Also, she's a big fan of the really subtle citrus smell. All you have to do is take a 2-minute quiz on their website, and they'll tell you exactly which routine is best for you based on your skincare needs. Level up your skincare game with Lumen Skin today. You can go to lumenskin.com/kindoffunny to get your free trial of Lumen's products. That's luminskin.com/kindoffunny to get your free trial of Lumen's products. lumenskin.com/kindoffunny. Shout out to MapleStory for sponsoring this episode. Are you tired of being judged based on the way you look? MapleStory is too. Because while it may look cute and cuddly, this is a deeply hardcore MMORPG. MapleStory is full of vast, colorful lands and a ferocious array of towering monsters, and don't get us started about damage. MapleStory will have you dealing billions with each swing of your Fafnir battle cleaver as you battle boss after epic boss, and you can customize your Mapler your way. MapleStory has 40+ jobs and thousands of weapons, outfits, hats, armor sets, and mounts for you to take on your journey, from the Lionheart battle bracers to vicious lollipop wands. And you know I love a lollipop wand. There's a ton to see and do in this picturesque world, and with 18 years of content to sink your Genesis weapon into, there will always be a new adventure around the corner. MapleStory's ready to go. Are you? You can go to maplestory.com to check out the game and play for free. That's free, guys. Come on. maplestory.com.
Janet, let's hop into story number 3. Bungie's CEO has spoken about Sony. This is Tom Ivan at Video Games Chronicle. Bungie's boss has said Sony Interactive Entertainment's planned acquisition of the company won't stop the Destiny studio from standing up for what it believes in. Last week, SIE boss Jim Ryan sent employees an email urging them to, quote, respect differences of opinion on the subject of reproductive rights. According to a follow-up leaked email written by Insomniac CEO Ted Price, the studio sent a lengthy document to PlayStation Studios boss Herman Holst, in which numerous members of the staff called on the company to, quote, do better by employees who are directly affected by the situation. Following, SIE reportedly plans to match a $50,000 donation Insomniac is making to the Women's Reproductive Rights Assistance Project. However, Price also said PlayStation won't allow any of its studios to publicly comment on reproductive rights. Bungie is one of the most high-profile video game companies to make clear its stance on reproductive rights in recent weeks. Quote, the leaked draft decision by the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade represents a blow to freedom in America and is a direct attack on human rights, it said earlier this month. Quote, standing up for reproductive choice and liberty is not a difficult decision to make, and Bungie remains dedicated to upholding these values, end quote. Bungie's senior community manager stated on Twitter, quote, I admit I'm just a community manager in the grand scheme, but I'm confident in the following. We are and will continue to be Bungie. There will never be a muzzle big enough to stop us from standing up for what's right, end quote. Pete Parsons, Bungie CEO, followed up on this, replying, quote, yes, end quote. Again, good on Bungie. We've been talking about this a lot. That, like, you know, Bungie was one of the more vocal big video game studios to come out and really speak about this and really speak for women's rights to choose when it comes to abortion. And for me, the rant I've been going on is more so about, like, man, it really sucks that PlayStation acquires Bungie. Bungie feels the liberty to speak out and be vocal about this, and then a week later, PlayStation comes, or specifically Jim Ryan is like, oh, let's, you know, respect people. Let's, like, and kind of walks back what Bungie's approach to it was. And so it's nice to see Bungie come back and go, no, we're not going to be muzzled, right? We're going to continue to operate as we operate, especially coming off of the news about how, or the report of Insomniac not wanting to tweet and be vocal about how they're making donations because they don't want to see repercussions based on that and then get shut down by that. Janet, is this a good move from Bungie?
Yeah, of course. I think, though, this is like a weird moment in time, I think, for like Sony as an umbrella and PlayStation as an umbrella, with all of this, like, kind of, I mean, tension that is built. And I know people are going to argue, well, like, that was Jim Ryan's point. Like, he didn't want this kind of thing to happen. But I mean, like, that is going to be the case when you have, you know, these different companies, like, underneath each other, different studios that, you know, really do want to be able to be, you know, vocal about certain things. And then there's that push and pull of, no matter how, you know, progressive some of these studios may be, there is still the, okay, well, it won't be an official statement, though. Like, we'll match you on the donation, but we're not going to say anything about it, which is kind of weird, I feel like. But, and then, yeah, 3,000 from Insomniac, I think that's really just to kind of put out there that, you know, where Insomniac stands, even though 50,000 is not a whole lot of money, admittedly. But yeah, I mean, I think, and something that I've seen come up again and again, you know, we've talked about this a bunch, so we don't need to spend like an insane amount of time on it, but something that keeps coming up is, I think, people conflating respect is just being automatically the best thing to do in every scenario. I think because respecting each other sounds great. Like, yeah, we should respect each other. You know, we work together on a team. There you go. Like, that does sound good. But I think in a case like this, the reason that you are seeing that pushback, you know, from studios, from like the way we've talked about this topic on shows, is because that doesn't work when the two things are at odds with each other on a grander scale. Like, I know people are going to say, yeah, but this is just like a person to person thing. It's like governments and decisions and laws, like all of those trickle down to people, whether they're like literal people that we can point out, whether they're people that, you know, we vote for to represent us, and what those people then have to say. And like, that's why it's like not as simple as, well, why can't we all just, you know, hold hands and sing Kumbaya and get along? It's like, well, because what you want takes away my option to choose, and I'm not going to respect that. And I can't. Like, I wish it'd be easier if we could have that, but we can't. Well, honestly, too, like, the thing is, like, with the whole, like, respecting different opinions and stuff, like, a lot of people have also pointed out, like, having the right to choose allows for that. Again, I don't need you to agree. I just need that option to be legally there.
Yeah.
And I think that's where, like, the friction comes in, where a lot of people are like, what's wrong with wanting to respect each other? It's not that that's inherently wrong. It's just that cannot apply to everything. Like, unfortunately, you know, it'd be nice if we lived in a world where we didn't have to have conflict, but like, conflicts do arise, and this is a case where the conflict is meaningful. It's not over something, you know, petty and small. Respecting differences, like, I respect differences for when it's like, what platform do you play games on? Not for like things with human rights, like basic human rights. That's a different thing.
It boils down to the, you know, there's the post going around of like, you know, asking us to, you know, tolerate intolerance, which only just boosts the people who, you know, live life of intolerance, and, you know, trying to put their personal values on the entirety of society, right? And that doesn't solve anything.
100%. Yeah, I think that this whole debacle has been making me think about in like the last week is like how I feel like PlayStation's approach over the last few years has kind of backfired on them in terms of like them wanting to be faceless and them wanting to be like a, hey, we don't have personalities, right? Like I think we've seen so many personalities leave, right? Like Andrew House isn't there, right? Like Shuhei, I feel like we see less, right? Like the faces of PlayStation aren't there. This is comparative to like what we usually see or like what we see from other places. Like when you think Xbox, you think of Phil Spencer, right? Like
Yep.
you now think of Pete Hines, right, for Bethesda, and you think of Sarah Bond, and like there's a list of people that are personalities and actually human people that builds a connection and builds like um a strong connection for the brand and then also the audience, right? Like having that connection is strong. And even Nintendo had the same thing with like Reggie Fils-Aimé, right? That being a face, right? Miyamoto being somebody that you connect to, right? Like the list goes on in terms of, oh, you have people that we can connect to, and you're allowing your people to have a voice there. PlayStation had that and then lost that, and it seems like they've been trying real hard to lock that down because, and I don't know the reason, honestly. I don't know if it's like they're scared of like giving the wrong person the voice or whatever the fuck, but it seems like they've been trying real hard to not let people have a face. Like Corey Bartlett,
I
I
think
remember
too the risk, you know, because you like mentioned like you're not sure why, like maybe it's just fear. I think it's part of it. I think the other risk inherently with having faces is like those people can leave, and you see a lot of companies have sort of a little bit of this attitude, whether it's something as big as like companies and development studios, whether it's we work in media. The more that like anyone has a face, the more they're able to like have freedom to move around, and the more that they might be like have an easier time like if they leave, it is a like bigger hit. Or even like thinking of other companies where like what was it? This is like such an old example, but like was it the Verizon guy who went to Sprint or like vice versa?
Yeah.
It's like that kind of thing. Like if you don't know, we want you to be a God of War fan. We don't need you to be a Corey Barlog fan.
And that's actually what I was
happens is when Corey Barlog switches positions, people are scared now. They're like, oh my god. It's like
and
no,
that's
no,
the exact thing I was driving to.
Just like you need like Kratos, except maybe not Kratos either. I don't know what they're doing in the next game. So but that's the vibe.
Atreus takes over. Atreus kills Kratos.
Yeah. Or like I don't know, you plays the boat or something. I don't know.
Like when you go back and watch the God of War documentary that they put out, right? Corey Barlog is a person with so much personality. Like dude has he could be a star, right? And he is a star, right? I think we look at him as a star, but even him, I'm like, we don't hear from Corey Barlog that much, right? Like he's around like every now and then, especially when they have like a marketing moment for the game, they allow him to speak a little bit, but like they try so hard to like really not allow the folks over there to like have a personality and have a face, which like maybe acquiring Bungie is gonna backfire in that case because Bungie seems like they're not gonna be muzzled whatsoever. They're just gonna talk and do their thing. Which shout out to Bungie, I absolutely love that. But I think in trying not to have a face and trying not to be a company that's driven by like morals, driven by views, driven by personality, all this stuff, right? I think this is them also doubling down and being like, oh yeah, like respect both sides, like respect everybody. We're trying to keep our entire audience, yada yada yada. And now it comes off as totally toothless and like weak. And it's so like it's upsetting to see them go to this length and go to this extent of doing it. So I hope to see change. Like I really hope that like I hope they backpedal and go, actually no, we fucked up. Like we're totally wrong about this. Like we'll let our studios be our studios because I think there's a lot of like
I don't think
there's a lot of joy
there's
a lot of joy in letting studios be themselves, right? Like I want to see Insomniac be a personality driven Insomniac. Like I want to see a Naughty Dog be a personality driven Naughty Dog, right? And like again, maybe some of those personalities end up being personalities that we dislike, who knows? But I don't know, man. I don't like the faceless company vibe that I get.
Well, the problem is it doesn't, sitting on the fence doesn't work because like it just doesn't work. I mean, people are gonna ask what you think, and I'm not saying there's at least from a capitalistic standpoint, right? Because I've already voiced my personal beliefs and like what I think should generally be how people skew to give folks freedom over their bodies. But like putting that aside, right? Like you're gonna rock the boat in some way. Actually, you're rocking the boat either way, whether you pick a side or sit in the middle, because it's like this sitting in the middle didn't actually do what the point of it is. Like you can't be mad at me, but everyone's mad because we all know also that sitting in the middle, there's a reason. When you sit in the middle on something
that is like black and white, right? Like it's not a issue that's like filled entirely with gray area, right? Like I do think that people's ability to choose is the important thing, right? Whether or not you believe in like, abortion is bad or you don't want it for yourself or whatever, like that's a whole different conversation. Sure. But like at the very least, everybody deserves the right to choose for themselves. Like that should be that should be like the line. And the fact that you're sitting in the middle when the line is all the way over there, like that comes off as no, you are picking a side, Jim Ryan. Yeah. Like you are picking a side. But I digress. We've talked about this a lot, and we have more
And I'm
controversial
sure there'll be
issues
more.
to talk about. And I'm sure there'll be more. But right now, let's move on to story number 4. Nintendo is now partially owned by Saudi Arabia. This is Chris Scullion at Video Games Chronicle. Saudi Arabia has purchased a 5.01% stake in Nintendo, according to a filing to Japan's finance ministry. Bloomberg reports that the country's public investment fund, a sovereign wealth fund chaired by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, made the purchase for investment purposes. The acquisition makes its 5th largest Nintendo shareholder, according to Bloomberg's data. This is the latest in a series of gaming investments made by the Crown Prince and his investment funds. Last month, through his electronic gaming development company, the Prince acquired 96% of acclaimed Japanese developer SNK, taking over ownership of the Fatal Fury, Metal Slug, and King of Fighters studio. Earlier this year, the nation's public investment fund had been used to invest stakes of more than 5% in both Capcom and South Korean online games publisher Nexon. These investments totaled over $1 billion. In December 2020, the fund acquired over $3 billion worth of stock in Activision Blizzard, Electronic Arts, and Take-Two. It's set to receive a profit on part of that investment if Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard is successfully completed. The public investment fund is reportedly central to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's goal of making the Saudi economy less reliant on proceeds from oil. PIF's continued investment in video game companies may raise concerns for some, given Saudi Arabia's long-standing history of human rights abuses. The Crown Prince, in particular, has been accused of ordering the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Janet, this has been an ongoing story regarding the Crown Prince's acquisition of and investment into a bunch of different video game companies, and it's always fascinating, both fascinating and scary because of who the Crown Prince is and what he's been doing, right? It's scary for that reason, but also fascinating in the sense that out of all the markets, right, you want to diversify from oil, and so you go to video games, you're like, oh man, maybe we shouldn't rely on oil money. So, oh man, let's what if we invested in Mario? Maybe Mario is gonna get us a comparable amount of money.
Mario does bring that bag in, but yeah, again, it's one of those. And funnily enough, I was actually here. We were both talking about this the last time that the story came up. Maybe there was one in between that I may have missed, but we were together when the SNK thing had dropped, and it was the same, contextualization of the human rights violations, the accusations of ordering a murder of a journalist, which is incredibly horrid. And yeah, I'll kind of reiterate what I said then, which is that games and nothing exists in a bubble, and games are a business, and at the end of the day, there's going to be capitalistic moves in favor of bringing up those kind of businesses, whether it's I'm sure on Nintendo's part this made sense for them, so that's why they did it. I don't know that how much additional thought went on beyond that. Not that people aren't being thoughtful in the business moves they're making and doing their research, but clearly they didn't have a problem with that because they went in and did that. So yeah, I mean, that is the reality of games being a business, and games are always going to be a business to some degree, and that's just kind of part of it. I don't know if we'll ever kind of feel this more than beyond the knowledge of it, you know what I mean? Versus
yeah, I doubt we will.
When there's acquisitions and stuff, we that might be, but even then it's always so hard to trace back oh, did this game not do well because of X, Y, and Z?
That's the thing is the SNK thing concerns me more because they got most of SNK, right?
Yeah,
that was 96%.
SNK.
Now they own SNK, and that for me is oh, all right, we'll see how that studio or how that company changes. But for the Nintendo thing, right, we're not gonna really feel the brunt of this,
right?
I wouldn't think, and if
it did, it'd be imperceptible, but yeah.
Moving on, let's talk about story number 5. CoD Warzone 2 details have seemingly been leaked. This is Andy Robinson at Video Games Chronicle. Call of Duty Warzone 2 details have allegedly leaked online, including plans to bring the Battle Royale closer to its predecessor, Black Ops 4's Blackout. YouTuber Nero Cinema shared the details via a video published on Tuesday, which was corroborated by recognized insider Tom Henderson and partially matches with what VGC has heard from our own sources. According to the video, the biggest revamp in Warzone 2 will be related to how it handles loadouts, the packages players can purchase that equip them with all their powerful gear and guns. It's claimed that Warzone 2 will make it more challenging to acquire your loadout by placing them inside new POIs called strongholds. Quote, there's going to be a number of them, the video claims. It continues, quote, you infiltrate a building and do different things depending on the stronghold. Sometimes you have to defuse a bomb, kill AI, and then you'll have access to your loadout, end quote. It's claimed that Warzone 2 will adopt some features from Call of Duty's first Battle Royale, Black Ops 4's Blackout. That includes armor requiring a satchel to be equipped rather than coming by default, and a new inventory system where you can only fit so many weapons and equipment in your bag. Uh, this is fascinating. I'm very curious to see like how Warzone 2 shapes out, just from the perspective of like Warzone 1 has been so successful, right? Like, w- are the changes made in Warzone 2 going to be things that push people away or bring people back in, more people in? Because like, as I look around and look, right, like Andy, Nick, Mike, like so many people around me were playing the hell out of Warzone last year, and it feels like excitement about that has kind of like been tepid lately, right? I think people have dropped off as Warzone has felt more and more old, and I think Warzone 2 is going to be the opportunity for them to like really refresh and really go hard in terms of trying to bring that audience back in. I find it fascinating that it seems like a lot of that strategy is them going back to the well and going, cool, what worked about Blackout? And how do we make this feel new again? Because like for me, the reason why Blackout didn't work as much the first time compared to Warzone is the fact that it wasn't free, right? Like you had to buy Black Ops Cold War in order, or was it Black Ops 4? You had to buy one of the Black Ops games to play Blackout, and I think that automatically was going to shut it down because we were entering the space where Fortnite was free and more battle royale games were free. Um, Warzone 2, going back to that, I think I have a lot of questions in terms of how that's going to work, but I look at some of these changes and I am like, oh, that seems fun, right? Like I like the idea of having to go to certain POIs to get your loadout, right? Like I like the idea of having to fulfill certain challenges so you can get that stuff. Those seem like interesting changes at the very least.
Yeah, did you play much of Warzone 1?
Yeah, but I never fucked with it that hard. I was always like more of an Apex person.
Is
And also
there
like
anything
Fortnite.
that is it just like a kind of style and the feel? Like is by extension like was Warzone 2 kind of gonna be like, all right, well, this is probably not gonna be my speed similarly just because of like the way it generally controls, or is there something they can do to like draw your attention?
For me, it was a few things that like didn't get me hyped about Warzone initially. I think it was the way it controlled. Just because like I played so much Apex, and Apex, the thing I love the most about Apex is how it controls. Like the sliding, the like the diving, the flying, like the shooting, the feel, like everything about Apex in terms of how it feels to control felt right. Like it felt like a Respawn shooter, and Respawn did Titanfall, and Titanfall also felt so good to control, right, with the wall running and climbing and all that stuff. Apex had that, and it made it kind of a struggle for Warzone, which felt slower. It felt more Call of Duty, right, which is what it's supposed to feel like, but that just didn't feel as right for me in a battle royale. But then also Warzone just had a lot going on, like things like the loadout system, the Gulag, which I know a lot of people love the Gulag because that means that in Apex, if you're out, you're out, and that could happen so quickly. Like there's so many games of Apex where you drop, you're in a busy part of the map, and boom, you're done in 30 seconds, and now you're back to the menu. Whereas like the Gulag and a lot of the systems in Warzone to like call your teammates back and stuff, that would allow the game to kind of like last longer. You didn't feel as defeated as much as you would in Apex. But for me, that like Warzone just had a lot to it, and I think like I could be down to dig into that stuff. I think it just requires me to like be able to just have fun existing in that world and like running around and all that stuff. And I think again, the POI stuff could do that for me, right? Like adding in more interesting tidbits in terms of like stuff to catch my attention and stuff that like makes it more of a chill vibe for me and whoever my teammates are to like go in and go, okay, cool, let's do our objectives, let's hop into this POI, get our loadout, and continue to go. More stuff like that could do it for me, or it could overcomplicate it more. Like I honestly don't know what they could do for me personally to get me fully into Warzone, but I think it is like I think at the very least a refresh would be enough for me to want to try it out.
Right.
Is Warzone something that appeals to you whatsoever?
No.
That's what I figured, yeah.
Yeah, like it's just not. I mean, I just don't play that genre very much, like at all. The only like FPS stuff I've done, and I'm sure I'm missing some things, like Doom's cool. For competitive stuff though, I've
Doom
really
is
not
cool.
done
I love Doom.
anything. Other, yeah.
You not tried
first
Fortnite?
person? It's not first person.
Okay,
Is it
I
third
guess,
person?
yeah. It's
Right?
third person,
Like,
but like
yeah.
it's a shooter.
I played a little bit of Fortnite, but I didn't stick with it. I did play a little bit of like I think the last Call of Duty maybe, because it was like I feel like at the time maybe I wasn't doing a lot on PlayStation. I think so, because I did try it out. Like I remember playing it, and I only did like a few matches like with my boyfriend and against like bots because like I was learning how to play. And it was hilarious though trying it out because I'd never played a Call of Duty game before, and I like, don't play that genre, and I play like the kind of games I play.
Yeah.
So I was like, and it was funny because he was like, oh, this honestly doesn't, and I forget which Call of Duty it is. So like don't put this on any specific one because I can't remember which one it was. But he was like, oh yeah, like honestly, the environments don't look as good as they have before. And I'm like, what? This looks great, especially when you come off of like the Switch, like everything looks amazing to you. So I was like, oh, this looks really cool. And I was like, being dumb, walking around, like looking at old books when I'm supposed to be like shooting people. But yeah, like I enjoyed like how the triggers and stuff on the DualSense felt, but it's just not something I've spent much time with. And it's low on my list just because it's pretty out of my wheelhouse and it'd take a long time to, I think, establish a taste for myself, if I even can establish that taste. So we'll see if I ever get around to it, but
I think we can find a Janet Garcia first-person shooter. Like I'm down to go
you
on this journey with you.
Apex?
Dude, I'm 100% down to
Oh my
play
God.
Apex. You know how much that excites me? I need more people to play Apex with.
That's what's scary. It's like scary when people get too excited. You know what I mean? That's why like I don't do Monster Hunter. Like Casey I know would love to like take me through Monster Hunter, and I'm like, look, I don't want to hurt you.
I don't want to open up this can of worms.
Have your heartbreak,
I don't want to open up this can of worms because I don't want another Days Gone situation. But like, maybe like once a week, I'm like, oh man, maybe I should try out Monster Hunter. Like now that I have the Steam Deck, I'm like, what if I play Monster Hunter Rise on my Steam Deck?
I don't know. Let me know.
But also, I'm like, why would I do that?
I might end up trying Monster Hunter because my boyfriend's interested in playing Monster Hunter. Not Rise though. He wants to do World, I think. I think we're just gonna try that on our own because we have like people we could go to, but I think we're trying to like, because I think you have World for free somehow on PlayStation. Because I think
World was at one point on PS Plus. It might be part of the PS Plus collection.
That's what I feel like. Maybe.
I don't know if it is.
I don't know. People let me know, but he was like, you don't gotta buy it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I don't know if it's just we have it for something somewhere.
Yeah. Last game it says Bless is down to play 2% of every game. And listen, I'm just a man that likes I like trying things. Yeah, like is it wrong to want to try shit out?
Yeah, no, like that's part of our job. It's funny. Again, we got one more story to go, so I don't want to get too off topic, but like I was on TikTok, like posting stuff, and I like reply to comments and stuff on there, and I'll make videos to comments depending on if there's enough there. And I talked about not finishing games, and someone's like, don't you get like paid? They were like kind of joking, so it wasn't like a hate comment or anything, but they're like, don't you get paid to like beat these games though? And I'm like, only to a very small degree and only sometimes, because I'm like, we don't always have to finish games for review. Like I like to, if I can, like I will like will myself through it, and then that also backfires because then people say you beat it too fast. But I like finishing it if I can. But other than that, I'm like, if anything, it's like about keeping moving and like playing new stuff and like digging through. Like there's not a lot of time to like always see stuff through because it's like, okay, is this good? Is it not? Oh, something else is here, and then you're just kind of churning it out. So yeah.
And my thing is like I'm not somebody who plays everything that comes out. Like there's so many games that I'm like, I like Tunic I didn't touch. Like I wanted to, but I was like, after a certain while I was like, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just stick with the games I'm loving.
Well, then enough time passes that you're like, I guess this is just a ship that passed me.
Yeah, this is a ship that passed. But like Monster Hunter Rise is one that like I've heard Imran Khan talk, great about. Like I've heard so many people be like, no man, Monster Hunter is like that shit. And that's my thing is like, I want to try out games that could become my next favorite game. And oftentimes that pans out well, right? Like Mass Effect 1, I played with the Legendary Edition, and I fucking love Mass Effect 1. 13 Sentinels, I played and I beat the whole thing, and I fucking love 13. Like I'm down. I want to find. I like finding my next favorite game.
Okay, so another potential post show that we could do instead of a music one is like the top 100 games project, because that's something I worked on a number of years ago, and I'd like to revisit it. But it's the same concept where I go through games that people claim are the best games of all time, and then I try to see if I like them or not, and then I build my own list. So
I do want to talk about this during the post show because that actually does sound really fun. But for now, let's hop into our last news story number 6. Dead by Daylight is getting some cool crossovers. This is Kelsey Rayner at VG247. I didn't expect to be putting Resident Evil and Attack on Titan in the same headline this morning, but Behavior Interactive clearly know their audience. Last night, during Dead by Daylight's sixth anniversary broadcast, Behavior revealed that players can expect to see a second Resident Evil chapter, an Attack on Titan crossover, and a Dead by Daylight-inspired dating sim. During celebrations of the 5th anniversary, the first Resident Evil chapter for Dead by Daylight launched. With it came Legends of Horror, Leon S. Kennedy and Jill Valentine as survivors, and Nemesis as the killer. However, the map that came as part of the chapter, Raccoon City Police Department, came with various issues and was not available for a while after launch. Considering the overall success of the chapter, with Dead by Daylight reaching its highest player count during the chapter's launch, it comes as no surprise that we're going to be seeing more faces from Resident Evil. This is the first time that Behavior Interactive have introduced 2 chapters from the same franchise, and this time around, the chapter will be called Project W. Project W can only mean one thing, and that's the notorious Dr. Albert Wesker that we've met throughout the series. That being said, Behavior Interactive are yet to confirm what characters we might be seeing added to the game. So far, all we know is that it's happening, and we can expect to see new survivors and killers from the legendary world of Resident Evil. That's not all, though, as Dead by Daylight will also be collaborating with Attack on Titan. This is the first time players will be seeing a crossover with an anime, and it feels very random to say the least. The collaboration consists purely of cosmetics for both killers and survivors, and players will be able to reskin the character to appear as Attack on Titan fan favorites. Dead by Daylight's upcoming chapter, Roots of Dread, launches on June 7th, 2022. As for the Resident Evil chapter, there's no sign of a more specific release date than 2022 just yet. Cool. Jana, is this one that does anything for you? I'm not a Dead by Daylight person, but I do think these crossovers sound really cool.
I'm not either. Maybe I should try it out. Someone in chat mentions, gosh, where is that name at? I just lost it. It just went away. But they asked if they're going to be Titan size. I would hope so. I don't think
they're
so.
not.
Though.
No, that's not how you do it. That's impossible.
That would be cool. I know, but that's the idea of the Titans, but small is also kind of weird. You know what I mean? Obviously they have the skins of the main characters, but
I've only seen season 1. I've been wanting to watch the rest of the season, but my friend Yami's been slacking. It's not on me. This is on Yami. This is the same thing as you with Uncharted 4.
I'm not judging you. I don't watch anime for the most part. I've watched some anime as a kid, but yeah, the thing is, there's so much stuff. It's too much stuff. I can only take. I'm already like Arthur in the goddamn library with that that episode where he gets all the books, and they're like, you already have that many. And it's like, you're just jealous. You didn't get to it sooner. And then he rides off on his bike, and when the books falls, that's already me with games and all this other crap. I can't throw anime in there. That's why I'm not doing anime. But I did watch some Attack on Titan, and I stopped, I think, at season, I want to say 3. It was whatever season. They're like, what if we went really heavy? It's not a spoiler. I feel like it's not a spoiler. I don't know. Also,
go ahead and say it.
I feel like I'm vindicated in doing this because you do the no spoilers for blank Marvel thing, but here's my general opinion on it, which in itself is a spoiler. So I'm
a general opinion is not no. Stop this nonsense.
Yes,
a general me saying I like Doctor Strange is not a spoiler.
Anything. Yes, it is because
no, it's not a spoiler.
I know that you thought it was good. I know that you thought it was good then.
Then everything is a spoiler. Everything is a spoiler in that case.
Guys, maybe
we're not doing this.
Okay, maybe this is something again that we can add to the post show.
They get really. How long is this post show?
We have so much to talk about during the post show.
This main show.
There's no way me saying a thing is good is a spoiler. Then everything is a spoiler, and I can't talk about anything.
I thought one of the seasons got kind of boring. That's all I'll say. I felt bored by it, so then I fell off of it.
What I was going to bring up though, regarding this is
cool collaboration. Those are two cool IP. That's it. I don't play the game, but they're two cool IP. Whatever.
What I was driving at is I've only finished season 1, but maybe there is small titans you know how there's small Watto. Maybe there's a small titan. I don't know. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised about that. A little Funko sized Titan.
I'm also willing to say that I am peak Marvel nerd at this point, where yes, that is extra. I realize not everyone thinks the way I think, but I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. And if you know me, know that, because I will be don't tell. I don't even like no. Yeah, no, I don't like it. I don't like it. I want to go in fresh, cold, nothing. In a vacuum.
I'm just thinking about all the games I spoiled, by saying that they're good.
I didn't say it counts for
I can't believe I spoiled Returnal for so many people.
Spoilers are way different. Game spoilers and movie spoilers are way different.
Oh, we're gonna unpack this later because I could have a conversation about this.
There's too many things to unpack. I don't have anything scheduled though for after this, so we can go for as long as you
I can't wait to unpack these asinine opinions with you, but the post show is just so far away. If I want to come out to Mama Grop Shops today, where would I look?
The official list of upcoming software across each and every platform, as listed by the Kinda Funny Games daily show hosts each and every weekday.
Yeah.
Just to let people know, right? Don't check out our Top Gun Maverick spoiler-free review because apparently hella spoilers in there. We just spoiled it for 40 minutes straight. Out today, we got Gibbon Beyond the Trees for PC, Switch, and mobile, and then Recursive Ruin for PC. We got some new dates for you. Nakan has announced that Greedfall 2, The Dying World exists. And then a game called Spirit Tea, which, to pause here, Janet, have you heard of Spirit Tea?
No, I have not heard of Spirit Tea.
Good. I want you to pause there, right? Okay. It's a new date. Spirit Tea has been announced, and it is coming this year. Barrett, I have a video that I want you to play, but before we get there, Janet, I want you to guess what Spirit Tea is.
Okay, it's you're making tea to please spirits, I think. Also, Gibbon came out a week ago, so that might be old, leftover on Switch at least. And mobile, I feel like it's probably been there for a while because it came out on Apple Arcade a long time ago. But
it might be just a specific platform. We've been struggling with Out Today because
honestly, it is literal hell on earth. So I'm not. This is no judgment. I just want to get ahead of it before someone's actually no offense to people that also do that because it's helpful. But I
Of
saved you
course.
the time of the
So
funny
your guess is that
Yes.
you serve spirits tea.
Yes. Or the tea is made out of
Impressive.
spirits. Those are my
Yeah,
two
very
guesses.
impressive. Barrett, roll the trailer. Pixel
Also,
art.
this look reminds me of Eastward.
There you have it. You have tea. Tea is being
Okay.
poured. Somebody's drinking the tea, and it's a spirit that is drinking the tea. Janet was spot on. That was really impressive. But to give you more
It's a spirit
context,
cat.
it is basically supposed to be Stardew Valley if Stardew Valley took place in the Spirited Away world, which sounds like the coolest
Cute.
concept ever, right? It was announced today by an indie developer. Looks really dope, and yeah, like great guess, Janet. That actually blew me away that you got it that accurate. But I guess it is called Spirit Tea, so it's maybe not that much of a stretch, but still impressive. Still impressive. Now it's time for kindafunny.com/you're wrong, where you write in and let us know what we got wrong as we got it wrong, so we can correct it for those watching later on youtube.com/kindafunnygames and on podcast services around the globe. I freaked out for a second because you're wrong is filled. Now as I'm reading through them, a lot of them are for yesterday. Because Tim and Gary didn't delete the you're wrongs from yesterday, and it looks like they got hella shit wrong. Look at this, man. Can't trust those two on a show together. You know what I mean, Janet?
Yes. I'm trying to stop us from going even longer than we've already got.
Let's see here.
This isn't a you're wrong, but I like Nano's the smallest recorded Titan factoid.
I'm not going to read that one because that could be a spoiler.
Yeah.
But can
Let
you
me
give
know
me
when
your
you get to where-
reaction to what that spoiler is? And is that a
Right.
spoiler? Do you think it's cool or not?
You know, I'm not going to
scared to
spoil
say,
it,
'cause
but
if I
I am
say
going to
it's a
say
good
that
sign.
it's
No,
less.
let's wrap up the show.
If I say this,
Just
is a
please,
good
no,
spoiler,
no,
you
no,
know?
no, 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 no. Just keep going. Just go. Just close this out, please.
All right, to close this out, tomorrow's hosts for Kinda Funny Games Daily are Tim and Tam for Tim TM Thursday. If you're watching this live on Twitch right now, after this is Mike and Nick and Andy playing some Screen Sheet. If you want to catch that stream later, you can subscribe to youtube.com/kindafunnyplays. Remember, this has been Kinda Funny Games Daily. Each and every day live right here on twitch.tv/kindafunnygames. We run you through the nerdy news you need to know about. We have a Patreon post show for those that are subbed at the silver level of patreon.com/kindafunnygames. So stick around for that. Otherwise, until next time, Game Daily.